All right. Then to the discussion that is a lot more polarizing, and I understand why people are either strongly for or strongly against. Patrik Laine, he is out of the Players Assistance Program. He is now able to talk to teams and his team for the first time. What's your interest level? Like in a vacuum, let's remove trade value, whatever. Patrik Laine, the player, what do you think?
Very interested. Absolutely. Because you take out every other part of what making that dude actually look like. Absolutely. In terms of the player, 100%. Like a fucking massive right shot, left wing, absolute sniper, one of the best shots in the league when he's actually like playing. Yeah, I mean, if you're not interested in that profile of player, I think you're crazy. Then it comes into the details as far as a contract. Is it worth, well, actually, just what that's going to cost in terms of acquiring a player like that. But like a team that desperately needs goal scoring and not just like a bunch of middle six guys. It's weird when people want to shit on like the idea of Patrik Laine because of like just the play style in general. I'm like, really? Oh yeah, no, sure. I would hate to have a guy that like at his peak was score like when he was fully like scoring a bunch of goals over 5 games, then going cold for 15, still finishing the year with fucking like 36 goals. It's like a 23-year-old. Yeah, I would hate that. I'd hate to have a guy that puts up 40 in his sleep. Like that would be terrible. Would hate to have that here. But again, with the contract situation at this point, with the Wild's contracts in general, that's where it's like, all right, and there's not really.
When people like to say like, "Oh, he hasn't been good since his first couple of years," like you understand.
Wonder why?
No, but he's played partial seasons since every season except for 2. He has paced over 30 goals for a season. Yeah. He played the full season. The guy is no joke. One of like the top 5 like pure goal scorers. What's the rest of it look like? I don't know. But I think the big thing that I'm hinging on here is, okay, he was not happy in Winnipeg. Okay, he's not happy in Columbus. Everyone talks about how players want to like sign long-term and are happy in Minnesota. They talk about how strong the locker room is. Oh, no shit. Maybe playing with a guy like Kirill Kaprizov might change his attitude. Like he could come here and he could be everything that everyone thought he was going to be. Now, again, contract, certainly problematic, but I don't know if you can get them to retain half. And this is me completely spitballing here. Probably not realistic, but you send them Dean's son. That's a given. Freddie Gaudreau to play with his cousin. You send them Marcus Johansson, who is in a contract year. Dean likes him, and he would be a good veteran presence with Columbus. Then the question is, what are you willing to give up? Because if that's the move and they're taking some money back for like they're basically getting a wash for salary, you're going to have to send a good prospect or a first-round pick or something. So is the team over a guy like Carson Lambos? I know you and I aren't, but the way Russo talks, like he's falling down that depth chart. Like he's currently behind the likes of Spacek, right? Is he a guy that's expendable that you're willing to move as part of a deal like that? I don't know. I don't imagine the Wild are willing to send a first-round pick either, but who knows? I don't know what their tolerance is for now sending out some of the things they've acquired. So it's hard to really speak to it, but you can make the money work. It's just, are you willing to give up the premium that it takes to bring in a player like that with that retained salary and getting rid of some contracts you don't want to have?
Yeah, I mean, I also can't see them retaining half. I don't care what the deal is. There's no fucking way.
There's only 2 years left, though.
Yeah, but like, why the fuck would they do that? Unless they're that desperate to get rid of this guy, which I can't imagine they are.
There's also the flip side of it, though. Maybe a conversation with Dean is all it takes.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too.
Coach.
I honestly have, like, giving up anything meaningful would give me so much anxiety without seeing what he looks like when he comes back for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, this feels like a massive gamble, no matter what the package is, unless it's like literally like, we'll retain half and we will take nothing. Like, before we can actually see him in action when he comes back this year, it feels like an insane risk for any team to give up like a meaningful package whatsoever. But as far as like the upside goes and like the profile of player, like they don't come around that often. Like, again, puts up 40 in his sleep and he is 6'5", and people forget this too.
He's like, he's mean.
He's mean as fuck, dude. He's a stereotypical Finnish dude where they're like they suck to play against. I'm not calling him a defensive stalwart. He's just a fucking
he's a prick
on the ice. Like, so I love the kid. But
the biggest thing I like about him too is 2 years isn't a big commitment, even if you're taking like more salary than half, right? If you find a way to make it work, it gives you a good runway to see if he's a guy. Whether that makes him a trade value to get rid of at that point or a guy you want to keep long term because he seems like a good fit, I have no problem with a move like that. But again, how much of a premium are you willing to give up to make the dollars work? And I don't have that answer. And I think your point is spot on. I don't think a trade's happening before the season starts. I think Columbus, I think Don Waddell is not going to come in and be like, as my first act as general manager, I'm going to give up our best player at his lowest trade value in his entire career.
Yeah.
Probably a conversation like, dude, you want to get traded? I'll trade you. Come in and torch for the first 10 games so I can go to teams and be like, look what I got.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the other side of that too, again, like we talk about all the time how there are certain young prospects in this pool that we would like to see get a look here at the start of this season. So it would make no sense really just to like fill that one realistic roster spot there is for some of these guys, like a Riley Heidt, Liam Ogren, whoever, and just automatically like pretty like taking a big gamble here. But well, like, you know, let's say you're 15, 20 games in and you know, you actually maybe you get a look at some of your young guys, like, and you're like, they don't appear to be ready right now, might need another year, whatever it is. Then it's like, all right, and now you have an idea of what Laine looks like when he comes back. That's what it really makes more sense to me. So right now, realistic doesn't really make sense to me at all as far as just like doing it. But, you know, talk to me 15, 20 games into the seasons when we have a better idea what everything looks like realistically. But there's like the raw profile of player, though. He's fucking a stud. Like, he is nasty. I love the guy.
Handicap it for me. Odds that JoJo plays in the top 6.
I have no fucking idea anymore. I can't even make a fucking.
My point is, like, people are like, "Oh, you're taking away another spot." No, if Johansson's part of the deal, which I think makes the most sense in the world, if you're gonna move for a Patrik Laine, because he is still a guy that makes sense to slot into a very young group in Columbus, you're potentially just replacing him with a way better fucking player, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, at that point, when you talk about like parts of the trade being guys like Gaudreau or Johansson, it's like, okay, so that means there's a pretty hefty price coming in terms of like prospects, picks, whatever it is. And yeah, I do wonder. I think it's like, listen, I love David Spacek. It is asinine to me that like there's conversation in that organization that like a guy like Lambos is falling behind him on the depth chart. In my head, I'm like, please tell me it's just because he's left-handed. Please. Like, that's fucking crazy. That is legitimately
wasn't Spacek sent
He was in the ECHL. Like, again, I think Spacek has an NHL future. I think he is a very good player.
Here's the better
like,
question.
it's just fucking crazy to me that like that could possibly be a fact.
So let's ignore that though. Does the drafting of Zeev Buium kind of replace Lambos' spot in the future lineup?
That's what I mean. That's where I'm like, all right, you like left hand, right, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Either way, it would be legitimately like, I think it should be a fireable offense for any of those people in the Minnesota Wild hockey ops to walk into the office one day and say, we have given up on Carson Lambos.
Not giving up, but like if you
no, that's the same thing. That's the same fucking thing. I am telling you, that's the same thing.
No, I'm just saying.
Fucking crazy.
If you have conversations with Laine and you actually think that he's like the right guy to move for, you're calling it giving up on Lambos if he's part of that trade?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I literally just meant if that's their pecking order, if that's where that I'm like, fuck off. I give up. I'm done doing this.
Agree
I
with
need to
you.
find a new pool.
Agree.